Guys, it's Manga Time once again. I'm here to bring you my review of Bleach 681, The End to World. Not quite sure what that title means. I'm assuming it's supposed to be The End to World, as in the end of the world. But he's written it TWO, but this isn't the End 2, this is the End 3, so yeah, I don't quite get that. Anyway, I feel like I should start this review by once again addressing some news that we've had in regards to the end of Bleach since the last time I did this. So supposedly it came out because Volume 73 just got released in Japan, and on the back page it says that Volume 74 is the final volume of Bleach. We are currently halfway through Volume 74, implying that there's only 5 chapters left of Bleach. I was not happy with this news, I have to be honest. I was actually phenomenally disappointed. There is no conceivable way in my mind that this series can possibly wrap up in a satisfying conclusion in now 4 chapters, because this was chapter 5 of the countdown. I thought through everything in my head of what we're going to miss out on. We're going to miss out on almost certainly any kind of Soul King backstory, any kind of Thousand Year Blood War backstory, which is crap because that's what the whole arc's about, but we're probably not going to get that. We're not going to see young Yamamoto and young Yuhava. We're probably not going to see any of the Zero Division backstories, or maybe even any of them fight again. We're probably Aizen. I don't know what Aizen's going to do. There's only 4 chapters left. He's probably not going to get his time as a big bad again. He's probably just going to show up and help out, and then that'll be it. So many Bankais we won't see. We'll probably never see Ukitake's Bankai. Ukitake, I guess, is just dead. We'll probably never see the Zero Division's Bankais and that sort of thing. It's just, if it's true, it's phenomenally disappointing and a crime of a way to end Bleach. Now, I've been reading Bleach long enough to the point where I'm not a blind fanboy. I know the series has major problems, and there's problems in this chapter. Even there's problems in this chapter. Kubo has been writing this story for over a decade, and he still doesn't understand how to pace it. He still doesn't understand the pacing, which is something we'll talk about in this review, because it's a glaring issue once again. But now that we've got 5 chapters left, I guess Ichigo's just going to somehow defeat Yuha, and that'll be it. So, yeah, that kind of sucks, if it's true. And there are some things that lead me to believe it's not true. Like, I kind of went into this 5-chapter countdown thinking that the chapters would somehow be vastly different. Like, there would be double the pages or something like that, because there's just no way. And even for reference, I went back to the end of the Arankar arc, and I went 5 chapters back from the end of that, which is 423, so it took me to 419. And it was basically halfway through well, not halfway through. It was halfway through the Ichigo and Aizen fight, because that wasn't a very long fight. And Kubo wrapped up that entire arc, 250 chapters worth, or well, not quite 250, but in 2 chapters. 422 and 423 were the wrap up for that arc. And that I always remember being slightly disappointed by that. So we're probably going to get the same, if not worse, here. Which sucks even more this time around, because this is the final arc, and that will be the definitive end. But anyway, I think another thing that makes me think that that's just so weird is that if this series is ending in 5 chapters, then why is Kubo being his normal self? He wastes like 3 pages at the beginning of this chapter on Renji randomly attacking Yuha and getting his Zanpakuto toe blown up. Now, I know it wouldn't be an arc of Bleach without Zabimaru getting shattered to pieces, but what's going through his mind? If this really is the end of the series, why is he like, I've got time, I'll show Renji just attacking Yuha for 3 pages. And this chapter's full of massive panels as well, and it's just like, sometimes I just don't get it. I don't get it. Having said that, this chapter is quite good, actually. This chapter features one of the things I have literally been waiting for years. Years and years and years. And whether I'm slightly disappointed by how it turns out or not, I don't know. We'll get there in a minute. Let's start the chapter. So Yuha is walking into the portal, and for some reason Renji's like, stop right there, and he tries to use Abimaru at him. Ichigo's, completely out of it on the floor, and he's just like, don't bother, Renji, it's useless. And it is useless, because before Zabimaru even gets to Yuha, it explodes, and just, absolutely goes everywhere, and Yuha drops the top of it out of the portal as he then disappears into it. We then actually go to Hashwolf, and this is causing serious contention among people on the internet, and myself included. So Hashwolf is looking up at the sky, and then he collapses, and he's just completely out of it. And Uryu's kind of looking at him pitifully, and Hashwolf says, "What are you making that face for? Did you think I'd be upset? Did you think I'd feel betrayed? Do you think that His Majesty would steal away all of my power?" Well, it's actually the opposite. I take pride in this. His Majesty found your power unfitting to steal, so he chose mine instead, but I cannot think of a greater honour. So there's just one thing I want to talk about very quickly. I know Hashwolf has the ability of the balance, but he doesn't have any Quincy powers. We've never seen him use a bow. He doesn't. We have to assume that he doesn't have a Volstendig, and yeah. So I get that. I guess Yuha just stole the Shrift, but we've seen. See, now this is where my major issue comes in. I've got a couple of issues actually at this point. The first is going to be that I just don't get Kubo. I just don't get it. Why would he give the Schustoffel and other Sternritters proper fights? Like Pernda's fight lasted 10 chapters against Miuri, which is completely and utterly unnecessary when you are then backed so into a corner that the fight against the second in command of the Vandenreich is mostly off-panel and ends before anything even properly happens. Okay. I think they fight like in one chapter, and that's when they're deflecting each other's abilities back at them, and then that's it. Hashwolf's just dead now, apparently, which really sucks. And my other massive issue is the Auschwalen is just so inconsistent. Like, Kubo clearly doesn't have a clue what he wants to do with that ability. He just uses it when the plot demands, and it does what the plot demands. Because Basby and Nanana were directly hit by the Auschwalen with little to no consequence. I mean, one can assume that they lost their Volstendigs, but they both kept their Shrifts. Whereas, Lil Toto and Giselle dodged it. So that's fine. But Hashwolf, Gerard, and Robert were all directly hit, and they were all killed. Gerard and Robert were killed instantly, and now Hashwolf is slowly dying? It doesn't make any sense. You know what would have been so much better? If Kubo had just had Basby and Nanana jump out of the way. Then we could have literally gone with the whole, if you don't get hit by it, you just lose your Volstendig. If you do get hit by it, you die. But for some reason, he didn't do that, and now the Auschwald is incredibly inconsistent. But anyway, Hashwell says, only I am capable of being an asset to His Majesty. And at this point, I was thinking to myself, like, seriously, dude, you need to stop riding Yuha's dick, because this is ridiculous. You've just been betrayed. But he turns it around, and I actually have to admit, I did like this part. Like, a lot of people have been relatively disappointed with this fight, and so have I, for the fact that they don't have a fight, but I've actually mostly enjoyed the dialogue between them. Uryu then just gets up, he's like, oh, okay, and he walks off, which I think is quite cool, because he doesn't even bother giving Hashwolf the time of day at this point, because Hashwolf's clearly beyond redemption. However, he's not quite beyond redemption, because he says, come back here, so I may transfer your wounds onto myself, using the balance. I don't quite know why Uryu can't do it anyway using the antithesis, but whatever. Obviously this shocks Uryu, and Hashwolf's like, I'm about to die, whether I'm wounded a bit more or not will have no bearing on the outcome. And Uryu says, what are you saying? And Hashwolf says, are you taking pity on me? We were at each other's throats just a minute ago with the intent to kill each other. And then Hashwolf says, why are you hesitating? You said it yourself, you've put everything you have on those scales, because if you merely followed others while being lost and adrift yourself, without ever truly weighing your decisions and consequences, then you may just come to regret everything. And we get a nice little flashback to Hashwell's flashback, implying that he does in fact regret everything he's done in life, which is kind of crap, really. But maybe Hashwell's not as much of a prick as I thought he was. So yeah, it's interesting that he discarded Basby, but he did regret it all this time. So I'm assuming he's known all this time that he's made the wrong choice, but he can't do anything about it now. But he says, in light of that, weigh this on your scales as well. You must go and save your friends. So I assume this is Kubo's way of giving Hashwolf some redemption by making him basically, be like, okay, so friends are more important than power. Go and save them. And this is obviously, I don't need to tell you this, but this is Hashwolf indirectly defying Yuha. So that's kind of cool. It's a pretty good drawing as well of Hashwolf just lying there on the floor. I'm just surprised that Kubo went this route, because Hashwolf just been completely shafted at the end, effectively. But you can't help but wonder, is this to do with the fact that Bleach is ending rapidly? And most of us believed that Ryuken was going to fight Hashwolf, and I think that was Kubo's original intention. Because it's very, very fucking weird that Ryuken and Isshin showed up and haven't done a thing. And that was almost 10 chapters ago now. So, yeah, that's very strange. But anyway, so Uryu has left now, and we get to see Hashwolf's last words, essentially. He's thinking to himself, even if it doesn't alter or change the end result in the slightest, making decisions based on convictions that you believe in and walking your own path has merit, rather than what Hashwolf does, which is basically just following people. He then says, there's something to be said for not having even one regret. And we do get this amazing moment where Hashwolf, essentially, I think he's dying here, and his hand opens up on the hilt of his sword, revealing the medallion for Basby. The childhood medallion, which is really, really cool, actually. I'm not going to lie. That's a nice... If he is dead, we can be disappointed in his final fight, but I think that's a pretty cool way for him to go out. Despite his actions, he never did forget his friendship with Basby, and he always regretted throwing it away, but he was never strong enough to defy Yuha. So, yeah. It's quite a tragic character, really. Anyway, Rukia is then kind of helping Orihime. I'm guessing she's just left Ichigo on the floor. But Orihime's telling Rukia that, Yuhava can rewrite the future. And so Rukia's like, there's no limit to what he can accomplish. Orihime apparently was trying to fix Tensa Zangetsu, but she couldn't manage it before Yuha smacked her up. And then... So... The speech bubble says that Rukia is speaking here, but I think it's basically in the translation, Rukia says, I won't be able to use my rejection to undo any of the destruction that's occurring or that will come in this future that we're about to enter. But I think what Rukia must be saying is that you won't be able to use your rejection ability. Anyway, Orihime then says, please forgive me, you won't be able to fight anymore, Ichigo. However, Renji's not having any of this bullshit, and he picks Ichigo up. And he's like, get your ass up, Ichigo. And Rukia's like, Renji, now's not the time. And he says, we don't have that luxury. We've got to go after Yuha. And Rukia's like, you fool, charging in head first is no plan. We need to regroup and form a strategy before we confront him. Renji says, we could sit here till we're blue in the face, but there's no strategy that will work against someone like that. And Rukia's like, there's got to be something. Now, admittedly, Renji is right. There is no strategy that's going to work against Yuhava. But anyway, now we get to the best part of the chapter, in my opinion. Ichigo's like, yeah, there's nothing we can do. It's over. As he said this, however, he gets stabbed through the back. And they turn around and Ichigo's like, you son of a bitch. And it's Tsukishima. Holy shit. Finally. Literally after so long. Fuck. He's got this smug look on his face. Tsukishima's like, I wasn't reviewing Bleach around the Fullbring arc. And everyone knows the Fullbring arc got a lot of hate. But the arc was made for me by the characters of Ginjou and Tsukishima. They are some of my favourite characters in the entire series. And I just think they're fucking awesome. In every way, they are so cool. But anyway, we know that Ichigo hates Tsukishima, and I was always wondering how this reunion would go down. And it sort of goes down how I expected. Ichigo obviously hates him. He's like, what are you trying to pull, you smug prick? But I'm honestly surprised that Ichigo is not more surprised that Tsukishima's even there. Because not only is Tsukishima in the Soul Palace, he's actually in the afterlife, and he's actually managed to find everyone. Because if you know, in Bleach, it's historically very difficult to find people you died with. But somehow Ginjou is there as well, and so Ichigo doesn't question any of this, which I think is a bit weird, but I once again, attributing Kubo to having a lack of time here. But anyway, Tsukishima's like, what am I trying to pull? I wouldn't have had to answer that. Ginjou just said, we're taking your side now, so I don't really have much say in the matter. And as he says, this Ginjou arrives with Yukio, so I'm assuming that's a hint as to that's how they got to the top of Varvel, at least, anyway. But I don't really know. Basically, Ichigo's like, you're taking our side, and then Ginjou says, I never said we're taking their side. My exact words were, we've come to repay our debt to him. And there's a couple of things I want to point out very quickly. Ginjou looks a hell of a lot like a Shiba in that picture. Now, I know a lot of people have always said that Ginjou could be a Shiba. He's got the sideburns, he's got the eyebrows, he's got the square jaw, and he's got the sort of mullet look going on. But there he looks more like a Shiba than he has ever looked before. But if Bleach is ending in 5 chapters, then we're also not going to get Ginjou's backstory, so we are never going to find out who he actually is. But yeah, interesting that Ginjou has a debt to repay to Ichigo. I don't really know why. I don't think Ginjou's talking about something as abstract as what Rukia said in the final battle when she was like, Ichigo saved us all and he saved Ginjou. I don't think that's what he's talking about. Ginjou's never been a particularly abstract person. I think he's more talking about the fact that Ichigo brought his body back, but I really have no idea. Tsukishima has no debt to repay to Ichigo, I don't think. Tsukishima's just a prick and they hate each other. So, oh well. Who knows? Maybe he is talking about the saving us sort of thing, I don't know. But yeah, Ichigo's looking really quite rough. However, Tsukishima then says to Orihime, come over here. Use your Soten Kishin on his sword again. Orihime must have no idea who this guy is, because when Tsukishima died, she lost all memory of him. So she must be like, who the fuck is this guy? But Tsukishima then reveals that he may have rewritten the future with such an immense power that you're not capable of rejecting it with yours. But if there was a past where that didn't happen, then you should be able to reject it there, and that's what I have inserted. Your sword has not been broken. People are taking issue with this, and I think you're mistaken to do so. A lot of people are saying that Tsukishima does not have the ability to physically change the past, he just implants a false memory, but that's not quite true. Book of the End is incredibly overpowered, and it always has been, and Tsukishima has always had the ability to actually physically change the future by what he does in the past. In Byakuya's fight, the only reason he kept up with Byakuya was because he changed the past so that he had been Byakuya's teacher, and that means he experienced the growth that Byakuya would have done. Tsukishima became physically stronger because of that. So yeah, and also in that fight, Tsukishima changed it so in the past there were traps in the floor and Byakuya activated those traps in the present. So Tsukishima does have the ability to do that. So this actually does make sense, and it does feel like a cop-out, especially since Tsukishima has kind of come out of nowhere. But it does make sense that Book of the End would be able to counter the Almighty. So basically Tsukishima has changed it so that in Ichigo's past, Zangetsu was never broken. But this does bring more questions. It always brings more questions. Didn't Ichigo just have his power stolen? But again, as with most things this arc, and this will probably forever be my biggest criticism of this arc, there has been a deficit of information. Why did he take Ichigo's powers? What powers did he take? We know that the Quincy and the Hollow powers went, so is Ichigo just left with the Shinigami powers now? You have to assume so, since he can still see everyone, but then isn't this Bankai a representation of his powers all perfectly fused together? So, is it going to be inherently weaker? I literally have no idea. No idea. But anyway, Tsukishima says, well then, I guess we can call the debt repaid. We're square now, right? And Ichigo picks up Tensa Zangetsu, and he's like, hell yeah, and that's the end of the chapter. It's actually, despite, I know it sounds like I didn't like the chapter a lot, because I was kind of moaning about it, but it was actually quite a good chapter, I thought, for the most part. Despite Kubo wasting panels at the beginning, there was quite a bit of content. It felt like the Fullbringer stuff was rushed a little bit at the end, which is slightly disappointing. Because, like I said, I was waiting for them to return for so long. But I think it makes sense. However, what doesn't make sense is ending this story in 4 chapters. Ichigo is in no way ready to fight Yuha. Aizen, I'm pretty sure, is about to show up. Urahara, about to show up. And I don't know if they're going to pull some bullshit on the spot that makes Ichigo super powerful. Or, maybe we're wrong. Maybe the advert wasn't translated properly, or it wasn't literal, or something like that. And there's more to this story, because I really fucking hope so. Because there's, we need more chapters, because I don't conceivably see how this can end in four chapters. Ichigo will barely fight Yuha for 4 chapters if it's going to be, even if he went straight to Yuha now and fought him non-stop until the end of the story, that would still be a pretty small and crap fight for a final fight. So I don't see how it's going to happen personally, but we will see. Having said that, seeing Ginjou and Tsukishima was one of my kind of Bleach bucket list things. I really wanted to see them to come back. So I'm pretty hyped about that. Kubo's pacing issues, though, persist even in the face of impending, ending. So yeah, that's pretty weird. So I'm going to give the chapter 4.5 out of 5. Mostly because they came back at the end, but also because I did like the end of Hashwolf's story, even if it was massively rushed. It felt like it was rushed. But let me know, guys, in the comments below what you thought of this week's chapter. Do you think Bleach is basically over? Do you believe in the whole 4 chapters thing? And yeah, let me know in the comments below what you thought of this week's chapter. How do you think about Tsukishima coming in and being the one to sort everything out for Ichigo? And is Ichigo how is he going to get power enough to fight Yuha? Let me know in the comments below, guys, what you thought. And as always, subscribe to my video. I'd super appreciate the support. But until next time, see you later.